probably cried myself to sleep for 8 months solid. Why is everything so difficult? Oh, well, he can't be autistic because he can speak. 18 months in SEND court, I had to sit before a judge. He will literally chew plugged in wires. It will just send you a lot of leaflets. Every autistic child is so different, and sit down in the middle of a busy road with cars coming. No two autistic kids are the same at all. A hearing test, occupational therapist, paediatrician, child psychologist, portage worker. They called it the Bridge Centre, or the neurodevelopmental pathway, educational healthcare plan. Why do they make you jump through so many hoops?
This podcast episode shares personal experiences of children with special educational needs and disabilities. It is not medical advice. Please seek qualified support for your own individual needs. Welcome to the Silent Struggle podcast with me, Michelle Chan. Today's episode is one that I think a lot of parents will connect with. It's also an episode that I believe everyone should take time to educate themselves on. My guest today is Keeley. She's the mum of a child with special needs who has been diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder, Pica Disorder, and sensory processing disorder. Her story demonstrates the lengthy and exhausting fight to get her child the support he needs, including going to court just to secure a place in SEND school. After years of obstacles, assessments, and being dismissed, Keeley's journey was anything but easy. It shows how the system makes everything harder when you're simply trying to get the best care for your child. And Keeley's here to share her experience to help other parents to feel less alone, feel empowered to trust their instincts, and continue to advocate for their children. So let's get into it. Before we start, I want to thank everyone for listening to this podcast. It means so much to me. So I've got a favour to ask. Can you please hit the subscribe button? I don't have a production team, so it's only me working tirelessly behind this. It would really help me to continue to bring more episodes of Silent Struggles to you. So if you can hit the subscribe button, that would mean the world to me. Let's get started. So welcome, Keeley, and thank you for joining me today. And so Keeley is a mum of two. Her beautiful son, Isaac, he's 7 years old.
He is.
And he's been diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder, Pica Disorder.
Yes.
And sensory processing disorder.
Yeah.
He's also currently being assessed for ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so firstly, before we go through everything, let's go through the term ASD. Autism Spectrum Disorder is a lifelong neurodevelopment condition affecting communication, social interaction, and behaviour, usually appearing in early childhood.
It's just a disconnect or a crossover in the brain. So their brain isn't wired like ours. They are born with it. A lot of people seem to think that it can be inherited through vaccinations, things like that. They are actually born autistic.
Okay, so from what I understand, I don't really know much about it, but there's different levels of autism. And what are the severity of each level?
I mean, in the UK, we don't currently use levels anymore.
Okay.
It's kind of just autism as a general. I know a few years ago they used to also diagnose Asperger's, but then they don't use that anymore.
Okay.
I know in America, I think they still use levels. But as far as I'm aware, the UK don't. Okay.
Can you tell me what is Pica disorder? Is that how you pronounce it? Sorry, if I'm...
Yeah. Basically, it's like a eating disorder.
Okay.
Isaac can, and he will, eat and chew anything that is inedible. So that could be stones, glass, if he could get hold of it. Dust, anything that is inedible, he will put in his mouth.
Have Pica disorder.
Yes.
What is SPD?
Sensory processing disorder. Isaac is a very sensory child, so when you see some autistic kids who do a lot of vocal stimming, which is a lot of noise, a lot of hand flapping, Stimming can be shown in quite a lot of different ways. It can be what you would typically see or think of stimming is like hand flaps, like rigid movements. That's like a lot of what Isaac does, but there is quite a lot of stims that you wouldn't even could guess are stims. So it could be touching your hair a lot. It literally could be anything. Isaac sights a lot as well, so that's where he will get up really close to things, and his eyes will constantly like be moving side to side very quick, and it's basically he's just getting input from everything around him. Isaac needs a lot more sensory input than the average person. So anything, like a lot of children, like autistic children can like flashing lights, things that you would typically see like in a sensory room, for instance. Isaac enjoys them, but on the other end of the scale, it's very distracting to him. So if Isaac is if we go to a soft play, they have a sensory room and there's a lot going on, that can be too overwhelming for Isaac, and it'll get him the sensory input, then it's hard to bring him back down. So a lot of autistic kids it calms them. So like all the flashing lights, everything would calm them, where Isaac, on the other hand, it just overstimulates him too much.
Oh wow.
So every autistic child is so different. No two autistic kids are the same at all, which I've learned, because like I said, I think especially with autism, there's a stereotypical things and traits that people see and think every autistic child has the same thing. So like food aversions, everybody thinks that every autistic child will only eat beige food, doesn't eat. That's wrong. Some autistic children have the best diets and will eat anything and everything. Some others, like Isaac, won't. A lot of people even seem to think that I've found since, obviously, with Isaac is, well, he can't be autistic because he can speak. Like a lot of people
speak.
think, well, Isaac doesn't, but I've seen like a lot of people say to me, oh, well, I've had people say, well, he can't be autistic because he can talk, or she can't be that bad because she can tell you what she wants. And it's like,
really?
That's not how it works. Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't really know what is autism, and they know the word autism, and they, as you said, that it's a stereotype that they think this is autism. So they think like if they don't have that trait, then they're not autism, or don't have it's not autistic. So can you tell me, when did you first notice differences in like Isaac, and you think there's something wrong? How old was he?
Yeah, well, very early, to be honest with you. The main sign for us was regression. As young as when babies start babbling and they start saying mum, 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 waving, he was doing that, and then it all stopped. Just completely stopped. One day he was doing it, the next morning he woke up and it's like he forgot.
Oh, so like development-wise.
Yeah, so developmentally, Isaac is significantly behind. In everyday life things, he's significantly behind. So he can't dress himself, he can't use a fork or a knife or a spoon. He can't drink from a normal cup. He can't obviously bath himself, like all types of things like that. But then in other aspects of like maths, extremely clever. Has self-taught himself Arabic, can write Arabic.
Oh wow, Arabic! Wow.
Yeah. And that is literally just from, he loves looking at Wikipedia. So
he's such an intelligent child.
Yeah, so things like that, unbelievably smart. But then in everyday life, so behind.
What were the symptoms like? Did you notice when he was a child that you think like, okay, I'm going to take him to get a assessment?
Yeah.
Or you think, oh yeah, it might be autism?
I mean, I always, like I said, like the first thing that was the main thing was regression. Like I said, like you could do something one day and then the next day it was just completely gone. Another big one was he would never respond to his name. So no matter how many times you called him, shouted him, tried to get his attention, he wouldn't even turn his head to look at you. It was, I think, I always knew, but around his 1 year check is when I started to panic a little bit, because he obviously was my first child. So I didn't really have another child to compare to and be like, oh, well, such a person was doing this, why is he not doing this? And when we took him to his 1 year check, the health visitor just literally turned around and just said, boys are lazy. He will do it when he's ready.
Really? That's not helpful, is it?
Yeah. And then that was it. And then we, obviously, as he was getting older, he still wasn't responding to his name. So even at like 15-month-old, nothing. Near enough 2 years old, it was at the point at 2 years old where the signs were right in your face that there was something more. That's when the stimming started to get every single day, every minute of the day. He wouldn't, and I still never played with a toy the way that children play with toys. He will just spin
How does he
toys.
play with toys?
He will just spin toys. So say like there's a car, you give him a car, he'll put it upside down, spin the wheels.
Okay.
He had this one toy that my sister got him for Christmas, and it was just like a toy. It had like a cow in it, and you could just spin it. All he did from the minute he woke up till the minute he went to sleep was spin this toy and vocally skim very loud as it was spinning. And this went on, I'd say, until probably his 2nd year check.
Yeah.
I thought no one's really taking any notice of what I'm saying. Yeah. No one's really taking any notice. I'm getting told that boys are lazy, they're not as quick as girls, just he's fine, all kids are different, it'll come, don't worry. And then at his 2 year check, at this point it was a lot. Like the meltdowns had started. Day to day was just hard because obviously you can't communicate. When he didn't want to do things or couldn't cope with things, he was constantly covering his ears. Taking him out was hard. Going to the shop was getting to the point where if his dad was at home, it'd be, oh, well, I'm going to have to leave him with you because he can't cope going into shops. He was refusing to walk. It was all this from about 2 years old is when it really, really was bad. And then again, when you have your 2 year check, your developmental check.
What did they say?
You get all the forms. You get all the forms at home, like to tick, like what they're doing. And Isaac's answers was no, 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 no. Wasn't doing anything. So again, health visitor check, different health visitor this time. He was already unhappy going there anyway because it was a new place he'd never been to before, which he's not good with. When we walked in, he kind of calmed down, but Isaac's, like I said, he's very sensory. He's very, even though he's non-verbal, he's not quiet. He's so loud. So we went into the room and he was just constantly running back and forth, vocal stimming, trying to pick things up, put it in his mouth, and the health visitor basically just said, is he always like this? I said, yeah. And then her words were, this is out of my pay grade. You need to see someone over this.
Wow.
I thought, well, I'll see you.
She didn't say that I'll refer you to someone, or maybe he could refer you to someone.
I mean, she was obviously asking, like, is he always like this? And always, like, he's always like this. He doesn't stop. But her first thing was that she wanted to get checked was his ears, a hearing test.
Okay.
Because obviously he was responding to his name and, speech, because obviously like people who have like hearing impairments obviously struggle with speech sometimes. So she was kind of thinking, could it be a hearing issue? But like I say to her, you could call his name 50 times and he would not look at you. But if you put his favourite programme on the TV and he's in a different room, he's straight in. So I knew with his hearing, but as you do, you just go along with it, don't you? And you just think, if this is going to get the ball rolling for someone to, then I'm more than happy to take him for a hearing test. So that was literally the first step in everything, and he went and he passed with flying colours. So that got the ball rolling for assessment, and then the next thing was speech. But because of his age, they did a speech where it was called Chatterbox, but it was basically like this, like we're doing like over a screen. It wasn't in clinic. I did explain to them that he isn't even going to acknowledge that you're there, because especially with it being on a screen, if it was in person, you would have a better chance of him, coming over to you, because eye contact at that point was little to none. To that, would never give eye contact. But apparently we couldn't progress on to in-clinic speech without completing 6 weeks of virtual speech. And this poor woman, 6 weeks, and this poor woman, bless her, was trying everything she could to get his attention. I don't think he looked at her once. but she literally said, like, I can't refer you onwards until this 6 week, even though
that's ridiculous. Because like even my 2-year-old toddler, she won't even talk to my parents on FaceTime. Like kids they don't. I mean, they want 6 weeks of virtual.
6 weeks. Oh, and it was
then what happened?
It was the most stressful, because obviously, like, even though you know that he isn't going to listen, as a parent, you're trying your best to get him to, interact, come over to the phone. It was just a whole hour of me just chasing him around the house, trying to get him to acknowledge this woman. And I mean, bless her, she even did say, like, obviously this isn't working. She's like, but if we don't do the full 6 week, I won't be able to refer him on. So it was just basically 6 weeks wasted for, with no progress. And then after that, it was in clinic speech, so face to face in clinic. But again, the thing is with Isaac is, unless he's very interested in what you're trying to talk to him about, he won't interact. So the first few weeks was obviously she was just trying to get to know him, and she would ask me questions like, what is his interest? So I'd say, like, if you start to count, if you show him numbers, he will acknowledge you. So that's what she was doing. And then basically the outcome from that was they give like cards, like speech and language cards. So it had like photos of different things. So like a picture of a juice cup, a picture of like things like that. And the goal was for him to pass me the card of what he would want, and that's how we would communicate. But he just never was able to do it. So speech really didn't do much either, if I'm being honest with you. You see them face to face, but then it's kind of like, we'll just send you a lot of leaflets. You do it at home.
Leaflets.
That's basically that is basically what the whole journey has been, really. Is like, there's a leaflet, you do it at home, and we'll just check in, whenever we can get you an appointment and see how it's going.
There's hardly any support. They're not really trying to help at all. They're following like guidelines and rules that they need to follow. When did you actually got a diagnosis? And after the speech, is it speech therapy? What?
Yeah. Well, after that, I actually self-referred him to occupational therapy, because I found out that a parent could actually refer, because everyone was just taking so long. And I just thought, there's nothing more annoying is there as a parent, especially when you just think, if I could just do this, it'll be done. Like waiting around for people and, waiting lists, appointments. And I actually found out that I could self-refer, so that's what I did. Self-referred him. We got an appointment with a paediatrician. She literally agreed within 2 seconds of meeting him that, he needed more support. At this time, though, he hadn't started school yet. He was still only about 2.5. So I know in different areas, every area have a different way to diagnose. No area is the same. So like some areas won't even look at a child for autism until they're 3, 4, won't even acknowledge that, they need support. Where thankfully my area, they do get the ball rolling quite early. If the paediatrician and occupational therapy agree that it needs to be done, they will step in and help. The only thing that I found and kept hearing was if he was in like a nursery setting or a school setting, that would help, because that's who they go to mostly, really, not the parent. They will speak to school more and get their input. School's quite important. So what we did is we put him in a private nursery.
Okay.
Also just to see if it did help him to, maybe I thought being around other children more would help him to, maybe interact, because Isaac doesn't interact with children really. He's more adult.
Okay.
He loves adult interaction. But I also think that's just because adults know what he likes. So, like if I say to like my mum, for instance, numbers, like she will obviously, count with him, do things like that. So I think he is aware of how adults understand what I need and like more. And obviously a child just wants to play with, where he's just not interested. So that's what we did. We put him in a nursery. And they did help to really get the ball rolling, because obviously they were seeing him multiple times a week. And obviously Isaac, a lot of children with autism mask, so they can be completely fine at school, and then as soon as they come home, because home's like their safe space, they just, as they say, mask. So the mask slips and they're just who they are at home. So like they could be perfect students in school and then come home and then it's meltdowns, it's sensory overload, or they've got sensory burnout, and obviously it's the parents who are dealing with it. Where Isaac doesn't mask and has never masked, so Isaac is Isaac no matter where he is, who he's around, which helped a lot, because obviously, like I said, in school he was just exactly the same as at home. So what I was saying to school is like, well, he's like this and this and this. They would say, yeah, he's also like this and this here. So it did really help that he is just who he is, and everyone can just see it from the get-go. So that really helped. And then the actual diagnosis process started, because it was such a long journey. He only actually got diagnosed at
4 years old.
4.
And he shows so many signs from like when he was a baby, and you'd have to get diagnosis at 4 years old. Wow.
Yeah.
So is it from nursery? He was was it 2? He went to nursery.
Yeah, about 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 1.5.
Then, the first thing was he got referred to someone called a portage worker, which was basically someone who would come out to the house every week for 12 weeks to assess him, basically just to see, if they also agree that there is something, more. So that happened, but that was probably the one thing that actually got everything
Okay.
as well as school. Portage were amazing. So she come out to the house for 12 weeks, assessed him, obviously, yes, he's, you know, he is autistic, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But again, doesn't have the power to just diagnose. He then had to go on to another assessment for 12 weeks at like a local centre. They called it the Bridge Centre. That was where I would have to take him every week for 12 weeks to basically like it was like a community centre, but it's basically where they do things like, you know, like a show start. So like for parents and children. We went and there wasn't just Isaac, there was a few parents and a few children all being assessed for different autism, ADHD. I think there was about 4 of them altogether. And in that 12 week, we would go every week and there was just multiple professionals who would just assess from afar, you know, just watch what they do. And then sometimes they would ask the parents to leave the room for half an hour so they could, like, you know, try and get a little bit more one-to-one. Because I know there was a little boy there who he was all through his mum. So whatever mum was doing or whatever, you know, he was always with her. So I understand why they ask parents to leave. I think it's just so they can get that more one-on-one with them.
And that was the final stage that they diagnosed him.
Well, no.
No, there's more.
No. After the 12 week, me and his dad basically got sat in this room with all the professionals. His school Senko was on Zoom. Pediatrician was on Zoom, and they basically just said he is autistic. We now need to refer him to something called the neurodevelopmental pathway. At the time, because of his age, apparently in my area, because he was under 4, I could decline that. I could say, well, I don't want this going any further. Or I had to agree for them to be sent off for the neural pathway, and then that literally took the whole time until he was about 4, just waiting, just sat on a waiting list that whole time, waiting to go to panel. Yeah, that's all it literally was, all that time. I'd ring, it'd be like 8 months later, oh, he's still on the list. A year later, still on the list. Because they were just so backlogged. There's just so many children.
That is so frustrating for you.
Honestly, so frustrating. Especially, like, right now, he's on the pathway for ADHD. I wasn't the one who wanted that doing. That was his paediatrician. Because in my opinion, I feel like at the minute, he's lucky, because I know like a lot of children don't, but we already have everything that we need in place. So like having this extra diagnosis of ADHD really isn't going to, I mean, it'll just be another thing on his medical. It's not really going to impact school or home or so I wasn't actually really going to go for the diagnosis, but his paediatrician wanted him doing. And again, we're been on the waiting list since, well, he was on the waiting list for about 9 months, and then he had to go for a test called a QB test. That's how they test for ADHD.
QB?
A QB test, yeah. They have to put like this elastic band around the head. It has like this ball on it, and they have to sit at a computer and like answer questions and see how quick they react and what their answers are. Isaac wouldn't even put the band on his head, so we couldn't even do the QB test.
Yeah.
But his paediatrician was aware that that would probably happen and said that if he can't do it, they're just going to diagnose off all these years of reports from school and all like pathway and everything that we've already been through. And he had that test on my birthday last year, so 28th of August. I'm still no closer to a diagnosis. Still on the list.
Wow, there's a lot of waiting to be diagnosed for like autism, ADHD.
Yeah.
What about Pica disorder?
Pica.
When do you notice, and what was the thing? Yeah, when did you first notice like it might be a problem?
Yeah. I think for me personally, as his mum, I think Pica is the one thing that I struggle with most, that I find more difficult, because you literally need eyes in the back of your head. He can't be
Hmm.
left. You know that you can't just leave him in the room while you go and fold your washing,
Okay.
because he will literally chew plugged in wires, which has happened multiple times.
Really?
Yeah, he will literally find he picks paint off windowsills, off the banister. He'll eat paint. He will, and anything and everything that he can get his hands on go straight in his mouth. But he will, if he can, he will also swallow the stuff.
What
Like, I
did
know
he
a lot of
swallow?
he swallowed quite a lot of things. I know one of the main things that he was his go-to, like little wooden jigsaw puzzles,
Yeah.
like children's little puzzles. He can't have them anymore because he will literally eat it.
Oh,
So like things like that. I know a lot of children with pica, sometimes they won't actually swallow
hmm.
the stuff. They will just do it because, again, it's related back to sensory processing disorder. They're trying to get sensory from whatever they're putting in their mouth.
Oh.
So a lot of children will chew and chew and chew, and then when they've had enough, take it out. Where Isaac will actually eat it if if he's left. So yeah, he can't be left at all. You've constantly got to be with him at all times. Like, not just through like Pica, but also because he just doesn't have any danger awareness. So he just doesn't understand that things can hurt or things are hot, or
Oh, really?
so yeah. So he literally has to have someone with him all the time. He cannot be left. So Pica is probably one of the most hardest things. And again, all he literally said to me was just take things off him, which is an obvious thing to do. I'm not going to let him chew a wire. I'm not, I'm like, obviously you're going to have to take things off him, but there isn't really anything that they can actually do for Pica.
Oh, really? Or is it just like prevention,
Apparently,
like
some people,
hiding things from
yeah,
him and
yeah,
keeping the house
distraction,
like
yeah.
safe?
Like I know, like I've had someone say that they can grow out of it, and then I've heard people say, "Well, my son's 20 something and he still does it." So with the Pica, I don't understand really what we can, obviously, other than taking things away, not leaving him by himself. Like, I don't think there is actually any help out there for it. I haven't been told that there is, so I'm not sure.
So, like you can't leave him by himself. What about,
Mm-hmm.
so you won't be able to have babysitters? You won't be able to, can your parents look after him, or do you have time on your own ever?
The only person who has him is my mum. Thankfully, at the minute, she can, obviously, there's going to come a point she's going to, she's getting older.
Mm.
But at the minute, we are very lucky. Like, my mum is unbelievable. Like, she's just so clued up. She's unbelievable. So we are very lucky to have my mum. If she does have him, she will usually come here, just because, it sees home, everything is here for him. But he will actually go to my mum's house and enjoys being. I would say my mum's his favourite person. So yeah, he is happy to go to my mum's house. The issue is getting him to leave. Once he's there, he doesn't want to leave. But yeah, so I do. I mean, day-to-day life, obviously they're in school, so that's when I get things done.
Mm.
Like, but if we ever do need, like, obviously me and his dad, my mum will always have him for us, and
Oh,
obviously his little
lovely.
sister. So we are lucky.
Yeah.
'Cause I know there's a lot of SEN parents out there who don't have anyone.
Do you know, other than your mum, that's really supportive, have a supportive network around you?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any friends or family that you know that also has an autistic child?
Yeah, I have an autistic nephew.
Oh, really?
He's 14 now. So he's completely different to Isaac. So like, like he can speak, he can dress himself, he still needs like, sometimes my sister will still have to, so like for instance, water is, my nephew's called Mason. Water is the biggest thing. He doesn't like getting wet. If it's raining outside, he won't go outside, which doesn't help living in the UK because it's always raining.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like there is certain things that he still needs help with, like showering. So like my sister will have to put like shampoo, conditioner, like in the right order so he knows what he has to use first. But yeah, so Mason was probably I've known of autistic children before. Like, there was one who used to live in my mum's road actually when I was quite small. But Mason is probably the one, obviously with him being close family, so I see him to go through, the diagnosis stage and stuff, which again, because it was years before Isaac, completely different to what I had to go through with Isaac. Like, it just changes all the time and all the criteria. Like her health visitor was the actual one who did it, where obviously Isaac's health visitors weren't really that helpful. So yeah, so Mason's autistic, but he's in a mainstream high school, but it's a mainstream high school with like a SEN base within the high school.
Okay. What about Isaac? Is he in SEN school?
Yeah, he's in complete full SEN school. He used to be in a mainstream. Yeah. He did used to be in a mainstream school. He started in reception.
Okay.
So reception age, he went to his mainstream school. Quickly realised they couldn't meet need. They tried. I'll give them, they did really try. But it's just things like, obviously mainstream school's quite curriculum based, quite structured. He doesn't do well with, he couldn't cope going into, so like being in class, for instance, he couldn't cope in class. So then it went to putting a desk in the class but away from everybody else, because he wouldn't sit down with the kids. He wouldn't do carpet time, like all the things that obviously were structured in the day, he just couldn't do. So in the end, they kind of created like a room for him where he would be with a one-to-one. He did have a full-time one-to-one, so she was with him from the minute he went into school until the minute he left. Everything was basically through her. So like his class teacher, we would only really see her on parents' evenings, things like that. And
that's a SEN school?
Everything. This was a mainstream school.
Okay.
His mainstream school did have a SEN and still do have a SEN unit, but again, it's quite structured. So Isaac just couldn't cope. So for a long time, he was just basically in a separate room. They would try and integrate him into the main class throughout the day, which never went well. But they would always ask me if do you want us to try? Do you want us? And I would, as long as he's not in a place where he's hurting himself, hurting others, like if you feel like you want to try and put him in the main class with his class friends, by all means try, but obviously if he's visibly upset, visibly not coping, then obviously don't attempt. So for a long time he was just in this small room with a one-to-one, and then as time went on, I'm guessing they were realising that they had a couple more kids that weren't coping. So then it went from just like Isaac in his one-to-one, and then they'd slowly integrate more children.
When did they think like they need Isaac needs to go to a full send school. What
Um,
are the procedures to apply for a full send school, or did they just refer you?
I was applying for a SEND school is probably more frustrating than getting the initial diagnosis.
Oh, is it? Why is
Honestly,
that?
honestly, well, it got to, I'd say he did his first year, so he was in reception. It was very known from the get-go that he wasn't coping.
Mm-hmm.
And then we applied for a EHCP, which is a educational healthcare plan.
Okay.
Basically a legal document that comes from the local authority that puts on paper that he is SEND, as they call it, that he needs, obviously, all these things need to be done to meet Isaac's needs. The
Mm-hmm.
school have to follow it. So to get that, he had to be assessed by a child psychologist, again, occupational health,
Wow.
all went to school to assess to get this EHCP. Thankfully, we got it the first time. They didn't, because I know a lot of parents get told no multiple times, even when the child's not coping. The local
I
authority just will
know.
not give an EHCP.
Uh,
And I just think, I honestly don't understand it, but we was lucky. We got it first time. There was
okay.
no issues. They didn't fight us on anything. They just gave it. And then basically what that is, it's just a legal document that puts everything in writing about his needs, how he
Mm-hmm.
communicates, and then how school need to communicate, what they need to do during the day. So say like Isaac needs 4 sensory breaks within a day. So that's like stopping from working, taking him outside if that's what he likes, or, to a sensory room, or but it just was quickly apparent that they just didn't have they just couldn't meet his needs.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously staff, I know like a lot of staff in mainstream schools don't get training for
Mm-hmm.
SEND children. So obviously there was that aspect, and then it was the fact that he wasn't coping. Even with an EHCP in place, he just wasn't coping still. So then it just got to the point where it was just me and the school had a meeting, and I just obviously basically voiced my concerns. They voiced their concerns, and we just basically agreed that obviously he's struggling now, and it's very noticeable. So like where Isaac is compared to all of his peers, the gap is massive,
Mm-hmm.
developmentally wise, education wise. And obviously as time goes on, if Isaac doesn't, get any better,
Mm-hmm.
then that gap's just going to broaden. And where does that leave him? He's always going to struggle. So me and school agreed that he needed a full-time SEND school, but I just wasn't prepared for how. And
To get in.
yeah,
So after the
so hard.
EHCP, is that all you
Yeah.
need to get into the SEND school? Do you need to pay or what? What? I don't know.
Um, I know the local authority do have SEND schools that is under a local authority, so just like a normal mainstream school where parents don't pay.
Okay.
But also do have SEND schools that are private, so like Isaac's
Okay.
is private, which I think is one of the issues really where I think parents struggle most with the fight with the local authority, because obviously the local authority have to pay these schools for these child's places, which is a lot of money, understandably. But the issue is that there is no SEND schools,
Mm.
So if they built more
How
SEND
many SEND
schools,
schools are in your area or like in your county
um,
or near you or
there is 2 that I know of.
private
That
or
one's
local?
private, one's local authority.
Okay.
Like close to my house, there's 2 that I know of. And then obviously, as you get a little bit further away from home, there is a few more. But the process of getting him into a school was just I would honestly, I feel so sorry for any parents going through it because the mental fight that you have to have, it's emotionally draining. You know, we ended up, when you have an EHCP, the local authority have to consult with the schools for the place. So it's not just like, oh, I want my child to go this school. There you go, he's in the school. You've got to, well, we had to go to court because on an EHCP, the school that is wrote down on the EHCP, obviously with it being a legal document, you can't just change it. So you have to go apply to court to change schools. So that's what we had to do. 18 months in send court. I had to sit before a judge, an actual judge.
You need to go to court to change schools for your child. Do you have to pay for court fees as well then?
No, it is actually free. Because you know it's send. It is actually free. But yeah, when
how long was did it last, like the court?
18 months.
18 months?
Yeah, from start to finish.
Oh
yeah. But when they told me I had to sit before a judge, I actually thought she was joking, so I actually did laugh. But when she actually told me, no, you have to go before a judge, I couldn't believe it.
I can't.
I was like, honestly, I could not believe it. So that honestly was probably the hardest 18 months because obviously on one hand we've got him in a school that he isn't coping, they are not meeting need. And then we had the council having to contact schools to see if initially we'll send over Isaac's ECP to your school. Can you look at this and tell us if you think you could meet his needs or if you can't? And then there was about 7 schools who initially said yeah, but then once he went into school to assess him, said no. So it wasn't just as easy as like, oh, I really like the look at this school. It's a send school, can he go? Over 10 schools said no to meeting his needs. So we was basically in a position where we couldn't find a school that could meet his needs. And obviously he's still in mainstream at the minute, but it's just getting worse and worse. You know, like it was getting to the point I couldn't even get him to the school. When he was in school, it'd be in there 15 minutes, I'd have a phone call, can you come and pick him up? Like it was just a lot. And we had to go before a judge to find a school. It was just unbelievable.
Because you said that yours is it's a private school, so you have to pay how much?
No, the local authority paid for Isaac's school place. But in the whole 18 months, obviously I was allowed to search schools and tell the council, oh, like I like the look of this one, but I wasn't allowed to do anything else. They would have to then, you know, basically ring them, consult with them, and then we was just at a point where all these schools were saying no, and I'm literally thinking the only thing that is left is to homeschooling. But then I knew that wasn't going to be the right fit for Isaac because Isaac's very structured. Home is home, school is school. You know, like if I was attempting to homeschool him, I don't think it would work at all. And obviously with one of Isaac's biggest issues being social and communication, he needs to be in a setting, he needs to be in a school, he needs to, you know, have all of these things. And not only that, he's entitled to a school. You know, he needs to be in school and every child deserves to be in school, no matter how high or low needs they are. You know, and we just wasn't having any luck.
Can I ask, because currently he's in, is it junior primary school?
He's in year 3. Sorry.
So when he goes to high school, do you need to do all that again?
Well, us, thankfully, no.
Okay,
Because
so
the
you only need
school
to
that
do it once.
the school that he is in is all the way through.
Oh, okay.
Thank. I know. Obviously, there is some SEND schools, like the one in the local area, is only up until 16.
Okay.
So I think some parents probably do have to apply again for high schools, but thankfully for us, we don't,
Wow.
which is reassuring. But
Yeah.
the school that he is actually in now, in the whole 18 months that we were trying to find school, never came up on my searches once. Not once. I was obviously the whole 18 months of searching schools, trying to find schools that haven't assessed him yet, obviously that are not too far away from home as well. Because obviously I have a little girl also who's, in school.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one day, this school just popped up, and I thought, I don't recognise the name, and I had lists on my phone in my notes of schools that I've already, because obviously as time goes on, you start to forget, don't you, as well, like who you spoke to, who you've not. So I had lists in my phone, and it wasn't on the list. And it isn't really that too far away from us, it's only about 20 minutes in the car. So I rang them and I just basically asked, because the website was very vague, there wasn't much information on there. Asked them like if they took children of Isaac's age, and they said yes. And I just said, I'm just wondering if you do parent lookarounds so I can, speak to the local authority. And she said, well, we do, and we do one a year, and it's today.
Okay.
So I thought, right, okay. So his dad's actually in work. So I rang his dad and I said, well, you're going to have to come home. We need to go and look at this school.
Mm-hmm.
And we went and looked, and it was just perfect.
No.
Honestly, perfect. And within 6 weeks, he got offered a place, and he's been there since year 3.
Oh,
Well,
that's
year 2,
lovely.
started in year 2. So yeah. But again, we had to go before the judge to even be like, we found a school. This is how much it's going to cost. This is how much it'll cost if he needs transport, etc. The local authority had to agree, which they did, thankfully, and the judge agreed, thankfully. Because I know of some, again, especially being on TikTok, you see a lot of SEND parents on there, and obviously they put their journeys on, and you see a lot of the time local authorities are telling them that the kids are fine in mainstream, they don't need a SEND school, or they'll find a SEND school and the local authority will say, no, it'll cost too much, we're not paying it. Like, and it's just, but there is generally no schools.
Do you know, like, going through all these struggles, obstacles, throughout your journey, trying to get a diagnosis, get him into a school, even being in front of a judge, how do you cope mentally?
I mean,
How do you
I
feel?
think, obviously, I mean, I'm not going to lie, especially through the court process, that was probably the hardest one for me, just because you've got your child here who has very high needs, who obviously is entitled to a school place, but who isn't coping. And you just think, why is everything so difficult? Why do they make you jump through so many hoops just for the basic of rights? He has a right to be in school, you know? I mean, if I was just to not send him to school, I would get done. So why is there so many parents being put in positions where their child is out of school for 1, 2, 3, 4 years because there is no schools who can take their children? Court was the hardest one for me. Obviously there was days I would cry. I probably cried myself to sleep for 8 months solid. Just because I guess as well, it's just the fear of the unknown too. Like, especially when you've got a child like Isaac who relies on you for every single little thing. You know, if I wasn't to make him dinner and put it in front of him, he wouldn't eat. You know, it's literally like having a newborn baby. Like, you've got to feed him, you've got to change him, you've got to make sure he's got everything he needs, he's clean, he's, you know.
Did you say that he's still in his nappies?
Yes. Yeah, full time, yeah. That's due to his autism and obviously not having the understanding of how to. We've tried to toilet. We're still actively trying to toilet train, along with school, but he has never shown any acknowledgement of needing to go. He's still happy. He can dirty himself and he's not bothered. You know, it just doesn't. And he's also had issues with his bowels for as long as I can remember. I know a lot of autistic children hold, going to the toilet.
Okay.
A lot of children will hold because they don't like the sensation of going. Okay. Where Isaac is the opposite. He doesn't stop going.
Oh.
And it's also, I've also never actually spoken or known anyone else's child who has the issue of Isaac. I've seen a lot of parents say the child will end up severely constipated and stuff and on medication to help them go because they just won't go. Where Isaac, being the complete opposite, is just constant, but it's also the fact that it's never solid, so it's always like water.
Oh, okay.
So he is under Alder Hay Hospital, under gastro, to basically try and find out what is going on. He has had all of the blood tests for allergies, intolerances, things like that. All came back completely fine. Oh no, all came back completely fine. So we're still investigating that with what is going on. So obviously it's making toileting even harder because not only does he not have the understanding, he also is constantly going. So it's how do you potty train a child who on one hand doesn't understand and on the other hand can't stop going. So it makes it harder. Obviously, I'm guessing maybe if he had some communication, might make it easier. We've tried the cards, we've tried, now in next boards, we've tried everything, but nothing's clicked yet with him. But we just persevere and we just put him on the toilet every day, and school do the same, and hopefully one day it might click. Mm-hmm. But we're not sure if it will.
Is there any support, as in, obviously nappy cost would cost a lot.
Yeah.
With any support is in financial wise to help you? I'm sure I spoke to some other parent with special needs and they get, is it DLA?
Yes, DLA. Yeah. Isaac gets DLA. Yeah.
Does he get support with the nappies?
Yes. He is under a bowel nurse, a community bowel nurse. And the NHS will give, you can either have nappies or basically just a boxer short, but it's fitted and basically a big pad that sits in. Because the nappies are, they're very noticeable. They're not the most discreet of nappies. They don't, my area, I'm not sure if every area is the same, but my area, they don't help with pull-ups. Which I find a bit strange because especially if obviously you've got a bigger child and they're 9, 10, I feel like a pull-up would be a lot more discreet. It's not as noticeable. But my area, you can only get the pads and boxers or the nappies. Isaac gets both. I think it's something the most nappies you can get awarded is 2 a day.
So how many does he go through a day then?
A lot. Sometimes it can be 17.
Really? But they only award you 2 a day?
Yeah, I'm sure the maximum amount that NHS can offer is 2 a day. You do get a big delivery. It's like once every, I want to say 18
Well, they expect them
weeks.
to keep it in the nappy for the whole day for like, and only change it twice.
Well, yeah, basically. I mean, they seem to think that 2 nappies a day
Is enough. Oh my
is
God.
enough. But I want to say you get a delivery once every 18 weeks. So you'll get like 2 a day, but it's 18 weeks worth that you get in one go. But yeah, sometimes Isaac needs to be changed like 17 times a day. On his bad days. I mean, on good days it can be about 4 or 5 times, but bad days it's a lot.
So does he need any equipment or like medication or anything like to help him? I don't know, because you
I
said that there's
mean,
bowel issues or I don't know.
yeah. In the beginning, when obviously we first took him over it, they did try a lot of medication. At first, they thought that it was constipation, and what was coming out was just essentially like overflow.
Okay.
You know, like all the bad stuff that needs to come out. So they did put him on Movicol, which helps you go, but it was just essentially making everything worse, you know. And then when they started to realize, like, okay, like it's not solid anyway, and we're giving him essentially a laxative,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Then it's
so
going
that
more.
yeah, so that didn't help. And then they gave him like a steroid medication, which was essentially meant to make the feeling of going more intense to see if it would register
Mm-hmm.
that he needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Again, didn't do anything. Because one of the things with Isaac also is a lot of the time there's no indication that he's gone. So
Mm-hmm.
you can literally change him and then 2 minutes later you check him and he's gone again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he doesn't understand that he doesn't show any awareness. It's
What's
hard.
his daily routine that he needs to follow? Because it seems like does he need to follow a specific routine every day?
I mean, yeah, some days, especially school days, he likes to know exactly what is happening. So, you know, you've got to explain to him that, you know, you're getting up, you know, brush your teeth, breakfast, dressed, school. Like, you've got to lay out everything down to bedtime. Obviously, on the odd occasion where things can't be helped, and, you know, like, I would say, I run out of baby wipes, for instance. It's not something that I can leave till morning. I've got to go to the shop.
Mm-hmm.
That can really trigger him. So that can be really triggering. It could even literally take me about an hour to even leave the door. Just to go and get, and then if we're out the door, if I'm lucky, he will walk. Obviously, he's got to hold my hand at all times or go in his disability bugger. But
Disability buggy.
yes,
So he's
because
got a
he can
buggy.
refuse to walk. Yes,
Oh.
yeah. More so for his own safety.
Uh-huh.
Because when he refuses to walk, that could be at any point. So he can just stop and sit down in the middle of a busy road with cars coming. And obviously, he's nearly 8 now and he's a big lad. So when it's at that point, I physically cannot pick him up anymore because he's such a big lad. So obviously, if he's stopping in the road and he's holding traffic up and I can't physically move him, you know,
He's
it
done
comes
that
to a
before.
point. Oh, multiple times, multiple times. I've had times where strangers have had to help me get him up off the floor because I can't physically move him. So the buggy is for his safety, you know, because he will, if he gets out of your grip, he will just run into traffic. He doesn't understand that. Those cars, they could hurt me. He'll just run he'll just run and run and run. And obviously, especially when I've got his little sister with me also, it's like, how do I navigate? Well, obviously I've got to run after him, but then I've also got to
that's
keep
really
her
hard.
safe. So yeah, so when it's just me by myself personally, I can't now take them out together unless he's in a buggy.
You know, when you're out and about, and what are the, do you get any, do people stare? And what are the reactions you get from others?
You know, I find most as well, it's adults. Adults are the worst. Like, you would think, you know, maybe it'd be the teenage kids or, you know, but no, adults are the worst, you know.
Can you tell me
I
what's
mean,
the worst that someone did or said to you?
I mean, we was at a soft play once. It doesn't happen very often. I mean, we get the stares quite a lot. But I don't know if that's just because, like I said, just because he is nonverbal doesn't mean he isn't, you know, he's very loud. So obviously your vocal stims quite a lot. So maybe people are just looking because they're hearing a noise, you know, like, I mean, I don't mind people looking, but then when people, you know, as the parent, you know the difference, you know, when someone's just looking because like, oh, like, what's that noise? Or, but I remember once being at a soft play and Isaac loves numbers, and the tables obviously where parents would sit and, you know, you could order food. This one particular soft play had numbers on the table, so obviously the staff working there would know what table is what.
Mm-hmm.
And he went through a phase of he wouldn't actually play on the soft play. He would just run around the room looking at the numbers on the tables. And I remember there was these two women eating with the children, and because obviously Isaac likes everything in order, he would go to table number one, then to table number two, no matter which order, he would always keep it in order. And he went over to the table. Obviously we seen that they was eating, so you get up, you know, you go over to go and get him. And then this lady stood up very loud in front of everyone, asked me if that was my child because he's trying to steal food. And I thought, and I did basically do, obviously, yes, he is my son, and he isn't trying to steal your food because, for one, if he wanted to steal your food, he would not understand that that's not his not to take. He would just take it. You know, like, he doesn't understand if there's a drink on the table, that's not mine. He will just try and, you know, so like I said, like, if he really wanted your food, he would have just took it. I said he's autistic, you know, and he likes numbers, he's just looking at the thing. And then the next phrase was, oh yeah, I knew there was something with him.
Oh, that is disgusting. That's disgusting.
And I just thought, don't make a scene. And I don't even think I actually replied. I think I just looked at her in disbelief. And I just got him and I just left. And we never went back to that software. Just for the simple fact also as well that because he's so easily distracted, you know, I know, like, obviously people are eating, understandably, you know, but I just thought, for one, to even stand up and be so loud and rude and, is this your child that he's trying to rob my dinner? I just thought, for one, that's, you know, like, me personally, I would never, you know, even if he did actually someone come over, child came over and actually took something off my plate, I wouldn't even, you know, react in that way. But it was so yeah, I thought there was something with him. And I just thought, people are just the worst, honestly. They are. Some adults, I just think, wow, I don't know.
Do you get that
how
often, like, from adults?
Not really, no. We have a few adults who, obviously, you know, you get, especially like a few older adults who, like, you know, they see children and they try to speak to them, and obviously he isn't speaking back or acknowledge. So I will obviously have to say, like, he isn't being ignorant, you know, he can't communicate back. But it's just mainly the stirs. The stirs are the worst, you know, and I just think, especially when you can see a child's in distress, you know, and I just think, me personally, if I've seen another child, because I do feel like now, also being a SEN mum, I feel like I can easily see the difference between just a child maybe having a tantrum because maybe they've been told no, they're not allowed some sweets, you know, like my daughter does, and a child who is, you know, in a meltdown or not coping in an environment. And I just think every time I see it, I just feel like you feel so sorry for the parents, because you think, obviously, they're in a public place, you know, like the kid might be having a meltdown. Obviously, they're going to be stressed, you know, they're trying to comfort their child. And the last thing people need is people stirring or making, you know, some people make comments. We've had people make comments before because he was in the trolley. It's too big to be in that trolley.
What has it got to do with them?
And I just think,
Nothing to do with them. They can carry on with their life.
Yeah,
it's
like
not
it's not
disturbing
affecting
them.
you. Yeah, it's not affecting you. He isn't doing anything wrong, you know. But we don't have it a lot, but we have had it a good few times, which isn't nice.
So how? Because I have friends and I know people that has kids with special needs. Personally, I would need to thank you for sharing all this experience, all this with me, so I learn a lot more about autistic kids and how you feel as a parent, coping with everything and all the struggles that you've been going through. Personally, I don't if I want to help or support or care or in any way possible for that parent or that child, how would you advise me, or how would you want the public to react or support you? What advice would you give?
Yeah. I would just say, obviously, you know, a lot of people see children with autism, especially, and, you know, the first thing that maybe they will think to say to comfort someone is, "Oh, it's fine, don't worry, you know, he'll speak, it's fine," or you know, like, "Don't worry about him being in nappies," you know. And I just think, as much as the good intention is there to try and comfort, I think what I found is, I think just listen is probably the biggest thing I can say. Listen to what the concerns are, and yeah, just try and not to be dismissive. And, you know, because again, like I say, like, a lot of people may just do it trying to comfort, like, "Oh, it's okay, all kids do that," you know, like, all kids flap their hands, or all kids, you know. And I think a lot of the times it can make us parents feel like, well, we're not being taken seriously, you know, or we're not being listened to. And, you know, when you live it every single day, it's just nice to have someone who will listen. You know, like, especially because I think it's hard as well, especially with like other mum friends, especially if their kids are not, you know, on the spectrum. You know, like, I think a lot of some parents find it hard to relate. Like, even though we're all mums, obviously my journey, even with being a mum to Isaac compared to his little sister, is completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So I do think it's hard to try and relate even to your friends, you know, because they don't live out in your shoes, you know, like, they're parenting journey is not yours, and vice versa. So the one thing that I would say is just listen is the main thing, because a lot of the time we're not listened to and our concerns aren't taken seriously. So yeah, that would probably be the biggest one.
How about parents who are going through this, or parents who need to look out for any signs that there may be a sign of autism? What advice would you give them, like tips on how to get a diagnosis? Who do you contact? What type of what helps you so you could help others?
I mean, like I said earlier, every area is different on how you would go about, getting a diagnosis. But the one thing that I will always say is, if you know your children better than anyone, better than any professional that, will encounter them maybe 4 times on the whole journey. You know your child better than anyone. If you, in your gut or in your heart, suspect that there is something wrong, just speak up, and there will be times where you're not listened to, or, you are, sometimes, you can try and get, fobbed off. Just speak up. Don't take no for an answer, especially, at the end of the day, as I say, you've got to be your child's advocate, like, especially if they have no voice, and be your child's voice and just push. Don't give up. That is all I say, is because the amount of people that I've seen, it's taken them sometimes 8+ years to get a diagnosis because they're just told no constantly. No, we think they're fine. No, they don't need this. No. And then 8 years later, they're getting a diagnosis. That diagnosis has been needed all along. You don't just wake up one day at 8 years old and you're autistic. You've always been autistic. So that is the one thing that I will always say. Don't back down. Don't let them, make you think that, oh, am I just being paranoid, or is it just me? Because a lot of the times also, like, people don't have, even family can be not supportive. Like, I've heard people say that even my mum turns around and says, "Oh, you'll grow out of it, behave. You're being overprotective. You're thinking about it too much." But again, like I say, even with your parents, they don't see what you see every single day. So just back yourself. That is the one thing, because the amount of times on this journey where it would have been so easy for me to just be like, oh, maybe it is me. Maybe I am thinking too much into this, and I could have just stopped and just thought. And then I think, where would he be now? Like, he wouldn't be in a school, more than likely. Like, we wouldn't have any HCP, we wouldn't have all the support that we have. And especially with the local authority, they can be the ones, especially with the HCP processes that I've seen. Unbelievable, the amount of parents that get told no. No, they don't need one. No, they're not having one. And I just think, if that's the case, and just keep reapplying, just keep going, and hopefully one day you'll get listened to.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I just want to tell you that you are an inspiration. Yeah.
No.
Raising a child with special needs comes with its challenges, and the way you show up every single day with so much love, patience, is just admirable. Okay. You are doing an incredible job.
Thank you.
And this goes to every single parent who's raising a child with special needs. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And I hope this conversation just helps others who are struggling alone and they feel seen. So thank you so much,
Yeah.
Keeley.
No, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this show. If you like this show, like what we're doing here, and you want to support us, the free way to do so is hitting the subscribe button. If you're struggling and you want to share your story, please check out the link in the description. And I will promise to do my best to create awareness for the conditions that people are suffering silently.